You see, number 3, when I asked what is an egregor, but this kid here was his first time here. We've talked to him once before, interview him, see if we were going to let him on and stuff. See, he says an egregor is an astral entity generated from the collective, congruent thoughts of a large group of people that takes on a form and behavior that represents that group. So suddenly we're at the point where, you know, even the forest is an egregor. You know, and you got 2 different groups. Some people want to cut it down and make lumber. Other people want to hug it. You know, I mean, it's, you know, but it's an egregor. An egregor is, an egregor has a binary within itself. You know, Hitler, the Second World War, that was an egregor. But there was a binary there, you know, most of the world didn't like it. So, you know, see, everything is an egregor. You know, to one extent or another, anything that you see, smell, and feel that doesn't have consciousness is, you know, pretty much an egregor. That's what reality is. This is what we're dealing with Ghimel, with the Empress. You know, we had Throat Without the Tongue with Beth, but the Empress is more like, it's like a tunnel, but not a closed-in tunnel like this. It's a, you know, like the throat was. I mean, that's a thing. This is like a more like a canal. See, more like that. See, actually, the egregor part of us, when we were doing the book from Eastern, Western, Shinto, boom, 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 all the Ipsissimi together at that time, doing that book, that's why it jumps sometimes into Eastern stuff. That's why sometimes it gets confusing. That's why a lot of times I don't say exactly what it said. First of all, you know, it was written 60 years ago, and second of all, this is just me, not the group. So when you deal with this concept, you're dealing with a concept, first of all, that's the third concept. So you've got, you know, you've got the magician, consciousness, and then you got, you know, the priestess, opposition, the binaries, but also the channels through which you could speak or express self. You see, and in Ghimel, the big concept is this is the tunnel. This is the tunnel where consciousness and the ability to express yourself comes through. It's not a channel. You can get splashed over the side. You can get you can form such a strong opine or judgment that you get knocked out of the channel before you get to the end. But this is your actual birth. This is your this concept is the birth of self. Well, it's the birth of anything. But basically, the way we deal with it when we're looking for higher self, this is the birth of self. This is it's okay. I am. This is the way it starts, and then as you start dealing with them binary concepts, you know, that's where it gets fun, because like he tells you in the book, you know, it can be pointing up, it can be pointing down. You can deal with various concepts of karma, free will, things like this, and how they may relate to each other. But what he's talking about when he was talking right in there and says, if your will is used the wrong way, or if you pull the yard out of the, you know, if you subtract the 2 from the 3, you only got 1. But if you subtract the 1, you only got hay. That's what he's saying. If you allow yourself to form opinions or judgments before birth, it knocks you out the ditch. You know, it's like the Arizona Canal here in Arizona. That's they pump water all over the state, in these big canals they built. and it's sort of like you get splashed out. Then you lay on the bank and evaporate. It's a real beautiful concept. So when you get into that, this is early for it, but it's where you first start dealing with opines and judgment and stuff like that. But you sort of get knocked out of the box because you made a judgment before you were aware of both sides of the possibility. You turn around and go like, oh, I'll go that way. That's like belief. Believe me, belief is the death of intelligence. Faith is fine. Faith is fine. But belief, no place for it. No place for it. When they turn around and they talk about, here, I'm going to go up by the board. See, you remember that part? He goes, are you doing it? Will you do it? Have you done it? See, if you go, will you do it? It's not there. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. If you already done it, that don't mean anything either. Doesn't mean it. You already did it. If you already did it, and you're not at one with higher self, then you ain't done the right thing yet. The only one that counts, the only place there's any power, right there, doing it. It's the only place there's any action. Saying, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes, and something else will show up. That means you don't really want to do it. Oh, I already done it. That means you don't think it's worth it. See, it gets really whacked out when you start dealing with some of this stuff. But this is the most important one. We probably won't even finish this concept tonight because this is a critical one. This is what the actual, that movable balance point is. And it all comes down to, are you doing it? Okay? One of the most important things that the book dealt with is where it was talking about it takes the passive and active to create. Everybody catch that in the book? In other words, creation actually takes place only when there's a passive and active. You got to have a passive and active. First law of physics, nothing exists without an opposite. It's just the way it is. But, so you have to have a passive and active. That's why you have to go all the way down the canal. But then when you got the passive and active, that's what allows you to create. And the way you create is the same thing we've been dealing with before. You've got an active and a passive, and you've got this nice little seesaw here. And the way you create is you get there and you start doing it. You start doing it. Now, the one thing we try to teach you, the one thing we try to get you to do is be self. So, every now and then there'll be somebody here, they don't have any fun. Those are the people not capable. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to stay right here in the middle. That ain't any fun. Well, I guess it is, but, how long can you float? The only thing I know that floats forever is a dead log or a dead fish. Most effective fish, they swim around half of the time upstream. So you're going to end up somewhere here or here. You're going to end up somewhere there or there. But see, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because the way that all these concepts work is just because you think you're a butthead, that doesn't mean other people think you're a butthead. You know, I mean, there's 100 million people that think Romney's a butthead, and then there's 100 million people that think Obama's a butthead, and then there's another 100 million people that are too frustrated to care. I said, neither one of them think they're a butthead. So you can be yourself. As long as you're not harming anyone, you're allowed to be yourself. Look, I wear a mohawk, which I'm going to have to take off pretty soon, because when I started laughing at myself this morning in the mirror, I figured I got as much energy out of it as I could. But see, you have to be self. So, you know, you're the one doing the creating. You're looking at the active and passive. And some part of you, that intuitive part of you, that higher self part of you says, that's it right there. That's it. That's where you want to be. And that's where you want to be. Believe me, that's as close to God as you're going to come for a while. That's where you want to be. Absolute trust to self. See? So you're creating that, and you're creating that by looking at the active and passives that are available to you and deciding which one not would necessarily get you the most money. If you do it to get the most money, you're starting in the middle and you're not going to get anywhere. You know, if you do it, which one's going to be the most fun? That one works. That one works. Which one is going to be the most fun? Which one's going to get me closer to self? That's how that works. But there's no judgment anywhere you are here. As long as you're not hurting anybody, there's no judgment. You're totally entitled to that. Okay? The one thing you need to remember when you create, the creation is, believe me, analogous to limit. To limit. And that limit is the size of your astrosome, soul, monad, higher self, whatever you want to call it. That's your limit. But everybody has that. There ain't anybody around here with less than a 30-foot diameter. See, so that means you can actually create whatever you want within 30 foot of yourself. You get things going real good, things start happening really nice, you really start dealing with self, that thing's going to grow and grow and grow, and it'll get to be hundreds of miles. But you're only limited by the size of your astrosome. That's your only limit. And then he deals very, very strongly with that concept of present, past, and future. And that's a pretty important concept in dealing with that. See, the past has no, it's done. I mean, you can pick up a book, a comic book, or a newspaper, or almost anything. You can pick that up, and it's past. It's past. You visit the past by reading it. You visit the past when you think about things that have already happened. You know, when you listen to someone else's opinion of the past, that's not the past. That's not the past. It happens to be a book or a television news show or a documentary or something like that. That's an opine. And if it's large enough, that's an aggression. You know, the past is malleable. To change the past, you only have to change the human experience of it. Texas just did it on their textbooks. I think I mentioned that last week. They changed the past. You know, it wasn't a civil rights movement. See, it's easy to change the past. The trick that you learn if you get this down, the future is yours if you take charge of the present. Okay? If you just do it, if you trust Sal, in the present, you're creating the reality of it. You know, and that's easy. It's easy to it's easy to hang around and go like, oh, and I'm going to be this. I'm going to be this. What are you making the sword for? I'm going to be this. I want to be president. I'm going to be a priest. I'm going to be a doctor. See, you're creating that. That's the reality of it. You're putting your thought, you're putting your focus on that, and that's the reality of it. To make it manifest, that's when you move it to the future. You have to give it a place in time. Okay, we've got space and time. You can create it. If you don't give it a place in time, it's not allowed to manifest. So in the process of creating something, you have to give it a placement in time. I'm a little tacky here because I beat the shit out of time and space so many times while I'm doing these things. But create a reality. Megan created a reality. She's gone to Nicaragua in a couple of months to teach school. They offered her a job teaching school down in Nicaragua. So she's gone down to Nicaragua. Well, she's got it placed in time because she knows when she has to be there and already got everything set up. See? But if she didn't give it a place in time and all of a sudden went and got on the airplane and she didn't have her passport yet, but she had her passport, but she hadn't got her malaria shots, you know what I mean? See, you got to give it a place in time. The creation has to include the whole thing. If you create something, I get people all the time. I end up running them off. I get people all the time. Oh, I hang around and listen to this old bastard for a while, and maybe I'll learn something. I mean, there's no such thing as learning. This is metaphysics. I mean, this is metaphysics. There's no such thing as learning. It's being. The entire concept is that it is absolutely impossible for any damn one of us to know anything that you can't know. That's the concept of universal consciousness. Once you make the link, once you make the connection, anything, anybody else that has the connection knows is available to you. I know that sounds like bullshit, but I can tell you what, 8 years ago, I was driving up this mountain, and we had a big motorhome. All of a sudden, the motorhome, and it had a great big engine. It never had a problem before. You put it in cruise control, go right up the mountain, 65 miles an hour. All of a sudden, the goddamn thing won't go over like 4 or 5 miles an hour, and it's going. And we're on the back road. I'm looking at the wife and I'm going, man, we're in trouble, man. We're in trouble. You know, we maybe got $200-300 to our name. We're 50 miles from nowhere with a 30,000 ton, some 45-foot long big fucking bus. And you know, I got off the side of the road the first time there was a wide spot. It wouldn't even sitting on the side of the road, I'd goose the gas, and it'd rev for a little longer, but it just wouldn't, it wouldn't pass out, but it wouldn't run. I'm like, God damn, man. what's going on here? You know? Somebody said, oh, take the thing off the top of the engine in between the two seats up front. Take a Phillips head screwdriver and take this off. You know, and then go inside there and take this other screwdriver and take that other thing off and unplug this and unplug this. Hand it to Rose, go back and unplug the, unhook the little slave vehicle, this little Jeep we towed. Have it drive to the closest parts store, show it to him. If the guy tries to charge you over $32, he's ripping you off. You know. So I said, okay, Rose, here, go ahead. You know, half hour later, well, actually it was more like an hour. An hour later, she's back. I plugged the goddamn thing in, I put it back in there, I screw it down, I put the other thing on, I screw it down. Absolute trust and consciousness. I put the doghouse back on the goddamn thing, I clip it up, I shut off the emergency flashers, I started up, drove. I don't even know what the name of the damn thing was. I don't even know what the name of the damn thing was. Another time, I'm telling these stories so you get a concept of what the hell I'm talking about. I'm in Big Sur, California. This is back in the 60s. All the hippies, the flower children, I mean, you know, free love, you know. And I'm sitting in the hot tub, Sykes Hot Springs. It's 12 miles back, but they got these natural hot springs. It's a real popular place. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden there's all this screaming and stuff, and I'm up in the top tub. I used to like it real hot, you know, because then it dribbles down the mountain into another one and another one, you know. And everybody's screaming and stuff, and I get out of the tub, and I look over the edge, and it's, all the water in the creek is red. And they're dragging this guy out of the creek. He jumped in from like 10 or 15 foot up and hit his head on a rock. And I run down there and I go, whoa, anybody a nurse or doctor? There's about 20 people there. No. I said, okay, Roland, get something in his mouth. I'm looking there. I go, all right, shit. And somebody told me I had to pull his eye out. I mean, his head was cracked, like right through. His eye was already sort of hanging anyway. And I had to stop the bleeding, otherwise it would have killed him because he's got pressure in the brain, is what I come to understand. But I just did what I was told. Took the guy's eyes out, stitched him up with a goddamn regular needle, like a backpacker carries in case your backpack tears a little bit. He lived. See, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's not magic. It's not even spiritual. It's not even spiritual. It's living to the absolute fullest capacity you have. That's what it is. That's how it works. It's the ability to, like, not do anything, but, you know, most things. You know, you can't do anything, your body gets my age, you know, I mean, Aggie keeps trying to talk me into, oh, she likes to backpack. And so she talked me into going backpacking when I first hauled her out here to Arizona. And I made about 1.5 miles. Camped there for 2 days in a tent and went back out. See, so you can't do anything about your body wearing out. But you can do anything about anything that happens inside of your space. If it happened inside of your space, you're partially responsible for creating it, or at least allowing it. If you're allowing other people's creations into your space, it's just because you're not operating at your full capacity. Just like they say you're using 10% of your brain. Well, one of the easiest ways to describe this is during the course of the next few months, suddenly you're going to be using 15%, then 20%, then 30%, and hopefully we'll get you to the point that you use 100%. That's all it is. It's nothing special. I'm not going to teach you how to walk on water. I'm not going to teach you how to walk on water or raise anybody from the dead, but you may have that ability if you can create that in your head. And, but see, it happens in your head. You know, now, as complex as the world has become in the last 50 years, particularly if you live in the city, there's going to be times when something that you find totally violative enters your space. You know, gets someplace where you can see, smell, taste, hear, and feel it. Believe me, kicking that thing out of there, no matter how you have to do it, is not harming anyone. It doesn't belong in your space. See, that do no harm has a caveat to it. You know? I mean, if somebody comes walking up to me and pulls a pistol out of their pocket, I've had it happen. Give me your money, old man. You know, I just punch them in the head. They usually drop the gun. I mean, what do you have my space for, man? I mean, you know, I don't allow that. I mean, you can do that. Anybody can do that. It's not, that's got nothing to do with magic. It's got to do with being in this space that you and your higher self agreed on. It's got nothing to do with magic. You notice when he was dealing with karma and will and stuff like that in there, it's got nothing to do with magic. It's got to do with you trusting self and being where self wants you to be. Not 10 degrees off, because if you're over there, you can get something achieved on this level. No. It's that union between self and higher self where you're exactly where both of you want to be. From that place there, nothing can harm you. It's one thing to do no harm. It's another thing, and believe me, it is the most comfortable. I can't remember. I've been in the depth for the last 7 lifetimes. But every now and then I run into people with these fears and stuff. I can't tell you how pleasant it is to live without fear. Somebody pulls a gun on you, pop him in the kisser. Take the gun and shoot him if you want. I mean, that's fine. He's in your space. They invaded your space. You're not doing any harm, but you're not allowing anyone to harm you either. So there's a caveat in there. I mean, that's pretty extreme, but there's a caveat in there. I mean, if someone's harming your child, I mean, you're allowed to interfere. I mean, that's fine. It's not part of the do no harm thing. I mean, you don't have to turn the other cheek. You have to philosophically. But from the physical point of view, if that's your space and you're in the right space, nothing's allowed to boogie you. So then we go. Oh, by the way, I loved everybody's answer on what they wanted to do, what they wanted to get. Did everybody get through the numbers? I'm going to be stopping at the numbers because I got a couple other things I want to cover. But you get to the numbers. Did you understand what he was saying with the numbers? One thing you got to realize. He's using the Yad-Hey Vad-Hey concept. Remember the 7 triangles in the introduction? He's using that. Well, you got that Yad-Hey Vad-Hey concept, and that's an easy way to deal with it. But we've refined that method an awful lot during the last 6 decades. You know, if you take consciousness, the first concept, and Beth, that channel that can allow expression. Do you see what I mean? If you take the first concept and the second concept, they equal the third concept in that the third concept is the one that allows birth. You see? You expressed it and then it's born. It's just like you create it and then you limit it by the amount of balance you have between little self and big self. And so once again, we're back into Lamont, Shin. We've got this guy, he's walking around saying, man, I got to jump off that cliff. I got to jump off, but I can't jump off the cliff. You see? So his birth, his creation, is a judgment of himself. His creation, what he's creating when he thinks of that, is I don't have the courage. Or I don't believe myself. I don't have any faith. I don't, whatever it is, it's something they have done. You see? And that's why the Shin travels through this. Let's see, you create it. And you create it without questioning yourself. So you've got consciousness. The ability to express it. And then the birth of it. Realizing that the birth has to have a binder. Has to have a binder. When you got there, you know, we always say, judge not, don't make any judgments. That's, you have to judge that all the time. You have to constantly judge little self to keep it on track with bigger self. Because believe me, reality is very tempting. Reality is very tempting. You know, it's like, well, it's not going to hurt if I throw $50 less in the basket this week because, you know, I really need to get my kid new shoes or something. See? You got to do that. And see, that's part of the responsibility of being a physical consciousness and one of the 7 billion and not the whole. You have to do that. You have to accept that responsibility to others. And in the process of dealing with that and trying to keep this thing pure, you see, that's where the importance of how real is the goal and where do you want to place it in the future. It can't be achieved without that. How real is it and where do you want to place it? You can always move it. You know, so that's one of the nicest things about it, because this is a this is a live thing. This is an everyday, all the time. This thing exists without time. It never stops in your head. It's like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this thing? By planning it, that's the way it'll happen. See? So, how am I going to do this? So you can turn around and say, okay, I'm going to have a new car by the first of the year. That's pretty easy. I used to guarantee people anything they wanted up to $100,000 when they did this Create Your Own Reality course. Within 6 months, if they'd follow the exercises twice a day, which took less than an hour. It's real easy. It's thoughtful. But it's a real pain in the ass, and it's back into this karmic thing where, you know, something was supposed to get done. You created it, you put it into reality, put it in its time frame, and you miss it. You don't get the thing the least. You screwed up. You wasted all of that. You wasted all of that. But you can turn around and come September go, I'm sure I'll have it in 2 weeks. I'm goddamn sure. And just move the thing up to 3 weeks away. I mean, you can move it forward and get juice from it. But you do not want to create karma. You want to rectify karma. You do not want to create unhappiness, which is passive or negative, in your space. You want to create happiness. So when you place it in time, you're sure you can make it by then. And if you get to move that time up a little bit like that, it's almost like one of them pole dancers jumping down off the stage and giving you a kiss or something. I guess that's a relatively male point of view, but you know, it's like, you know, it's like a little bonus when you can move it ahead. So karma is that concept that we all have to do everything, but there's absolutely no concept in the Eastern concept. You can ask Ramana Maharishi, Krishnamurti, anyone who, there's nothing in there that says you have to accept partial failure in the process. It never says that. It never says that. If you have to go through some type of violent experience, if that's somehow part of your karma, you know, be the attacker or not the attackee. And choose how to do it. You know, so attack the goddamn pillow instead of running around punching somebody in the head. You can choose that. You know, and when you let go of your anger and angst like that, and helps you achieve balance and helps you get your shit together and stuff, when you get that out of your system, the opposite of it can't come in no more. See, nothing can exist without an opposite. The objective is to find and keep center. And the way you find center is you just keep moving towards it. The biggest problem we have in this all-new age goddamn yuppie-huppie thing and all these other religious philosophies, they're always trying to tell everybody they need to be good. So, and they tell them good is this active thing over there. And so then people get guilty because there ain't, you know, there ain't any more good people than there are bad people. You know? I mean, there just ain't. I mean, not many people on either extreme. Don't be good. Be self. Trust self. I guarantee you nobody here is going to hurt anybody. I don't imagine anybody around here is going to run around. Megan maybe. Mike said Megan maybe. But you see, it's not it's self. It's not what somebody else thinks self is supposed to be. Now, can you imagine how goddamn bored you'd be? What good would it be to even have a life? How could you grow if everybody did the same goddamn thing at the same time all the time? I mean, what's that? The individuality is where the process is. And learning to take control of your space is what Hermetics is. Okay, now we're going to do a question movie. On the blog, I've already put up in the past things about the spectrum, invisible spectrum, and stuff like that. But he asked about that purple indigo thing, which is a major major point of contention in a lot of different cultures and stuff. But on the blog, we got actual Newtonian physics and stuff showing the prisms and explaining it. But at the same time, it's irrelevant. See, it's irrelevant. Everybody will agree that that's red with black letters. Everybody, right? I mean, it's red. But none of us know if the other person's seeing the same thing we're seeing. You know, if you were raised on a little isolated jungle spot or island or something, and people refer to a chair as a table, and Everybody else in the tribe also called that chair a table. Believe me, that chair is a friggin' table. And if all of a sudden they put in an airport and you fly out of there, you're no more wrong than anyone else. I mean, to you, it's a table. You sit on a table. Yeah. See, there's no... And yet, everybody will go, oh, you're wrong. It's not a table, it's a chair. See, you don't care if they think your table is a chair. You don't care. On your Akasha thing, David, I want to do it because a lot of people may appreciate it. You know, Akasha, when we deal with Akasha, Akasha is a combination of placing that thing in time, it's a combination of that and karma. Combination of that and karma. People say, oh, the Akasha records say this will happen. You know, all that is whoever was writing that down, that was their interpretation in their space, spiritually. There's a lot of different spiritual paths. Believe me, it's relatively malleable. The oldest Hindu charts had indigo in the 7th chakra, and we've pretty much stuck by that. All the newer charts, actually it started with McGregor Mathis, who never even went to India. Somehow started sticking indigo below the purple. The color is irrelevant to the process. The color itself is irrelevant to the process. The reason we put that spectrum thing on the thing was because, you know, we had 10 or 12 people fussing about the color. The color is irrelevant. Just remember, 7th chakra, where we're talking out of your body, out of your body. 7th chakra is above your body. Anybody wants to argue with me, bring me somebody that sees auras, or pay $10,000 for a true Kirlian picture, and I'll be happy to show you. It absorbs all light. It's so close to black, it's ridiculous. And on 99% of yours, it's about the size of a sweet pea. And maybe if somebody's looking down at you a little bit, it may look like it's in the middle of your forehead. But just above it. The more you surrender to it, the more credit you give it, the more you attempt to understand it, the larger it gets. So that's the second definition of elemental. The book deals with them as lavas, sylphs, salamanders, They're there. You know, they're floating all out there. They can't bother you. They're not manifest. But it's not even unmanifest thought. It's not even a cohesive thought form yet. It's just somebody got pissed off and it went flying out there. It's just a little, you know, and believe me, it's a lot better to have them out there than it is to have them in the solid pot right here. They can't harm you. Some of them are positive. they can't help you any more than the other ones can harm you. They're just there. It's like if you live in Houston, you know, there's a lot of carbon monoxide, dioxide, whatever the hell it is in the air. I mean, it's there. You know, I mean, it's just there. You see, those things are just there. They're just there. You know, and they're relatively stable. And they have been placed in reality, but they haven't been placed in time. That's why they can't bother you, positive or negative. They haven't been placed in time. Getting the reality concept, you know, you can be driving down the street and your batteries goes dead in your car and you're out in the middle of nowhere, and believe me, I will kiss your ass in public and give you a week to draw a crowd if you can walk around that car going Nami-Yoho, Nami-Yoho, battery KO for a day or two and make a battery. You see, you got to place it in time. You know. I mean, if you ain't got no money, you might unhook the battery from the car, hitchhike into town, and you wouldn't have to talk to over 2 or 3 churches and somebody would give you a battery. I mean, you know, consciousness is good. You see, consciousness is good. You know, but Namio, Ho-Ho, Raku, Ko, and substituting the battery or something, it's not going to work. Creates a nice thought form. Creates a nice thought form. Saying, well, it's just floating around out there. Knocked the piss out of us last week. It cost me $100 for the battery. But you see, it doesn't work without a placement in time. It is your responsibility to place it in time. So you deal with the Akashic aspects. Oh, this has to be December 21st, 2012, the end of the Mayan calendar, also the end of the Hopi calendar, also when the hieroglyphs stop fucking up in the Sumerian calendar. And so you actually got a huge egregor out there, supported by the fundamentalist Christian church, that says, oh, the rapture is the end of the world. And that egregor started getting pretty big because a few things that happened not too distant past in the last century and two sort of fit in with a lot of them predictions, you know, as far as the big wars and the patricides and genocides and the bullshit and stuff. And so, like, man, you got this huge thought form that they're looking forward to it. They really want it to happen. I mean, a major apocalypse, 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, earthquakes, blah, 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 blah. So, Hermetics per se, the hardcore Hermetics per se, has suddenly found itself having created karma because we started writing books in the early and mid-50s. And a lot of people liked it. And a few people figured out how to make money on it. So right now, I don't know how many books are out there about reading auras. But I know for the first 20 years when they started coming out, everyone that come out in North America, I made it a specific point to go visit the individual that wrote it. Not a one of them would sit there and talk to me and claim to see auras. But, you know, they wrote a lot of books about it and people were interested, so people read the book. Everybody feels auras. Everybody. Everybody. Even the retards feel it. You're walking on causeway there in the mall, somebody behind you looking at you real hard, you know what I'm talking about. You turn around and they are, yeah, you're feeling it. You know, your spirit bodies got close enough together, you could feel their attention. Doesn't have to be active or passive, but you could feel it. Everybody does that. It's pretty easy to teach people to smell them. Pretty easy. It takes about 20 minutes. Pretty easy. You know, they got a sound. They got a taste. So you actually have to activate that part. You actually have to activate that part. That's fine. I've got, you know, I managed to get, I don't know, on the average maybe 8 or 10 people a year there that far. Ain't many can say that, believe me. But I managed to get 8 or 10 people a year there. It's a nice place. It's a nice place. But that ain't the answer. Once you're there, then you got to overcome the biggest damn thing that ever happens to any seeker. That's fear. Fear is surrender. Fear. Heart. It's that little guy walking along the cliff again. God damn, do I want to be a telepath? Do I want to be a telepath? Everybody's going to know what I'm thinking all the time. Wow! I mean, that's a funny place. I mean, it's a funny place. It's a hard place. But see, that requires that ability to see. It requires it. Now everybody, just like everybody's got the feeling pot of auras, everybody's got that emergency pot of telepathy. If you're a mother or your wife or somebody really, really, really close to you is stuck at the other side of the world and suddenly gets hurt or killed, you get it. I mean, something goes, whoop. I mean, you get it because you got that kind of hook. You know, that's accidental telepathy. 7 levels to it. But when you can actually go, I'm me. All of a sudden you can communicate with everyone else that done it. It's a pretty wonderful place. I mean, you don't have to be there for very, very long at all. And all of a sudden, you almost don't exist anymore. You know, I mean, it don't matter. You don't try to control yourself anymore. You don't have to. Everybody loves you. And it's like, wow, we're all one. Wow, ain't this cool? You know, you get angry. Go experience it through somebody who, that's their space. I mean, there's people that are supposed to be angry. You know, so you can experience it that way. There's people that fix cars. There's people that fix heads. There's people that fix bodies. You know, it's here. Self. And believe me, you know, it's a hard place to get to. You know, because you got all these distractions. But you don't want to do it like the old Hindi yogi that just goes sit in the cave and the rats live in his beard. I mean, that doesn't do any good. You know, I mean, he might as well wait till the afterlife. It's self. It takes a while to get there, but I mean, it's a fun place. I know I'm going to get every goddamn one of you there. Okay, questions. What did I do wrong?
Now, I guess my question was just, it was about the color of the aura for the Akasha. So the black,
right,
and the purple, and the part.
Right, but that doesn't make Barton wrong. That's the way it was perceived at that time.
What do you mean by that?
That's the way it was perceived at that time. When the in order to communicate with anyone, you have to use rhetoric. And so you have to express yourself in ways they understand. And language, the problem with language, that's why the study of semantics is so much fun. Language is based the same way as reality on opposition. But my expression to you, for you to understand it, for you to understand what I mean, has to be in relationship to your opposites, not mine, and I can only express it in relationship to mine. A good example, S.J. Hayakawa, he pretty much invented semantics. You know, the concept of it. I mean, he wrote the first books on it. English professor, San Francisco State University. Actually became a senator. Pretty cool kid. He's got 23 kids in a graduate class. You know, 23 kids. They've all already got mastery in English. Question on a test. One question only. Describe white in one paragraph. White. Now everybody knows what white is, right? I mean, that's pretty easy, right? Of the 23 kids, none of them agreed. And at least 16 of them contradicted themselves in the description. Communication is rough. Most of the problems that take place on this planet are because people don't understand each other. And believe me, it's really nice having a place where there's no misunderstanding. That's what it's nice. And that's what Akasha is. That's what Akasha is. Akasha is not the earthquakes and the tornadoes. And believe me, Akasha is not Cindy Housing, Alani, Donald Trump. They didn't mention you. They didn't mention you in the past unless you did it yourself or you related to some turbalon. That's possible. That's possible. You are you. And you're still human. Still little cells. They don't bother with little cells. Okay? Now, if you're a responsible turtle, then whoever puts you in this reality also placed you in time. And they're hoping to hell you become total you by that time. And if you work with them close enough, you can accelerate that and move that time up. But I'll guarantee you, everybody's going to get there. If not this time around, next time. Everybody, there's no way out of it. It's one of them. You can describe it spiritually the same way physically you describe birth. You know, what is the deadliest disease to any living thing? What's the worst? What's the deadliest? What gets everything that lives? Death. If you were born, you're going to die. That may take a day, a month, a year, 10 years, 100 years. Shit, you know, if you believe Moses, 400 years. It's basically irrelevant. You're going to die. If you have consciousness, you're going to complete. It don't matter. I mean, we don't get excited about it. I mean, you're going to do it. If you don't do it now, you're going to do it later. It's one of them things. You know, going to happen that's what universal consciousness is. See, it's not over. It's not over. And nobody can be all the friggin' way until we're all together. And we got a way to go. I mean, there's only a little over 64,000, you know, magicians on the planet. Sounds like a lot, huh? Not that 64,000. Back when Barton wrote that book, there were less than 5. And it took 10,000 years to get there. So say, time's moving pretty quickly. You know? But 64,000, that's less than 1 in a million. Less. Pretty wild. But when I was born, there weren't many at all. There weren't many at all. It's really growing. It's happening. And it's not only happening from this, it's happening from unity, it's happening from the Second Baptist, First Baptist, Islam. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's happening everywhere. Happening everywhere. All this is an opportunity to get there a little quicker. That's all it is. It's going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway. At some point, consciousness is going to reunite. One of the nicest things about reality, it's like a movie. It's like a movie. It can't hurt you. It can't hurt you. You are no more to your monad or higher self than the automobile you drive. You are something that allows it to experience what we refer to as reality, so that it can grow and achieve awareness and fulfill its karma and become part of the whole. Pretty easy.
So you mentioned about the colors. If the colors don't matter, does that mean that
they matter? They matter. But what matters is your perception. Okay? Now, if you go by like Mathis or one of them guys, the way they got the Tree of Life intelligences colored, they're all over the place. Give me that Tree of Life picture, I'm sure. It's not, what we deal with is refracted light. You know what refraction is? You sure?
The bending of light.
Right. Right. So, that's all reflected light. I got yellow over here for the 4th chakra. I got red and blue up here on the 5th. I got, you see what I mean? That's McGregor Mathis for me. Okay, but he's dealing with 10 intelligences, not 7 chakras. Most of the time when we do altar work and stuff, most of our people, a lot of them anyway, call them chakras. But it doesn't matter. We call them power centers. It's the same thing. Same color that the Hindi and Buddhists refer to. And believe me, as soon as you develop the ability to see auras, you'll see that goddamn purple from here to about an inch over your head. And it's black up above it. Not black, but that's the closest color you can come to. is such a deep indigo, it just absorbs everything else. So in Hermetics we call that kether, the crown. We just got there in the other class, and I'll be on that again next week. It's like we all agree that's red, but we don't know that we're all seeing the same thing. Table, chair, we don't know that we're all seeing the same thing. Remember, reality and metaphysics and reality. Metaphysics is the study of reality in contradistinction to itself. Okay? Right now, there are over 64,000 people that agree that it's purple and indigo. We all see it. We all agree on it. We're all telepaths. Actually, there's a couple of 100,000 of it as far as the aura of God. We're not interested in arguing about it. We're saying it doesn't matter, you know. Go with it the way you feel about it when you get there. You know, we don't care if you call it purple, as long as you know what it is. We don't care what you call it. It's a funny place. It's a funny place. It's real easy to sit down and bullshit about it. Completely different movie to do it. And it's not hard to do. It's not hard to do. It's easier for you, Don, than it is for all these other all these other people here, them other three ladies up there, and the one that's can't get her picture up down in New Zealand. You know, they're all old enough to be parents, and it's harder for them. It's harder for them because they've made that many more decisions and judgments and whatnot, and created that much more emotion separating them from higher self. So it's like, it's relative. We had a fella in Houston back in, I think it was September, young black guy that was, you know, used to be a sort of pain in the ass, you know, and, you know, he started seeing things. Got ready to check himself in the nut house. You know? And I don't know if he knew how to read and write. You see, it can happen anytime to anybody. Fortunately, he belonged to that Unity Church where most of these folks are. And so everybody goes, oh, that's cool, man. I wish that had happened to me. Instead of going, oh, you're out of your mind. You know, so it worked out fine. But see, it can happen to anybody. We lose so many people because they are not where they really want to be. They've been doing things they don't really want to do and whatnot in order to be accepted, or because of this or that and all this other bullshit emotional stuff, you know, and they're sitting there, particularly the ones, the hardcore Pentecostals and stuff. I mean, they get into it, man. No, they create focus. That's any type of prayer, when you create and focus, that's a meditation, man. They get into it. And every now and then, you know, they start talking in tongues and bouncing around on the floor and shit, and it's cool and shit, you know, and then all of a sudden they get there and they think they're in hell. Because they got all these judgments that once they get this realization, they're supposed to be looking at this big white ball of light. It doesn't happen like that. And trying to catch them as they come across and go, whoa, 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 take it easy, don't freak out, here, let us show you how to throw the switch. And they think you're the devil and end up in a nut house. you know, catatonia, schizophrenia. I mean, it does. A lot of people go nuts. You know? So that's one of the biggest pains in the necks about being an adept. Is part of it is we all agree that we all spend our free time hanging around there trying to catch any accidents. And we lose most of them. Because it's nothing like, it's just like this without form. Except that everything there can communicate. There's no language. It's all thought. It's all thought. It's fun. Cindy will see how much in 2 days. Because she's going to have to be right on the edge of that. Cindy and I are actually going to pull a lymphatic cyst out of this one. That's been medically diagnosed. Boom, 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 boom. Ain't that cool? Yeah, that's her medic. Anyway, I'm about done. Any more questions?
Yeah, it has symbols which represent the four elements. How do the four elements exactly tie in?
See, there's actually a fifth element. I mean, we don't deal with it much. Aggie deals with it on the altar because she's getting right to that space where she, you know, needs to get that kind of cohesion. You know, it doesn't matter what order you put them in. It doesn't. Aggie's been putting stuff up on the blog last couple of days. She's going to do all four of them. You can't have one without the other. See, fire, earth, air, and water. You can't have one without the other. For reality to be. Reality wouldn't be like this if it wasn't for those four. And once again, we run into a real serious problem, particularly if we start dealing with some of the pretty sharp people. Some of the my counterpart in China would actually put earth first and fire second. You know, she's a sissy mind. There's no argument. Their relationship to each other is the same relationship as right, wrong, white, black, male, female. They're there. They're there. It's not, you know, male, female, female, male. I mean, it doesn't change it. They're just there. And so you run into context of, and this is real good. Sort of ties into some of your Akasha stuff. So it's real good because you're dealing with this, and it's like, well, what present in the past created them, placed them in my reality at this time. Oh, we call it God, Goddess, whatever. See? It's impossible to deal with hard math and physics and be an atheist unless you're some type of mongoloid. But it's impossible. I mean, you know, something did this. You know, otherwise it's a real funny joke. You know, I mean, there's, you know, something. I mean, if we can do it, something gave us the ability to. Something put us in this time and space, which only backs up that entire situation where if it put you in this time and space, it must want you to be you. So that's about the best prayer you can do, be yourself. And we'll have more on this next week because the others I'll be able to do one a week, but this concept, this consciousness, ability to be expressed, channel of birth. This one here is your ability to express, hopefully, self. Okay.
In Ghimel, they're talking about sound too, the vibration of sound, and how it's all, and that you can even lose weight by sound.
Correct.
What kind of music would promote weight loss?
That's it. See, once again. Oh. Cindy. Just tell yourself you want to lose weight.
Do what?
Just tell yourself to lose weight.
Oh, okay.
The same way you tell yourself to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning if you got to get up earlier than you used to. You know? I mean, you don't need an alarm clock. You're in charge. You know, just tell yourself. Next, once we get into Dallas, actually there'll be some clues there you can use.
I can't understand you.
Once we get into Dallas, once we get to that breastfeeding emperor, that nurturing patriarch, there's some clues in there. But remember, thought. So turn around. No matter how you do it, we use an altar. Surrender all the fire energy, the first power center, to my elemental, whose job is to be the hot wire between little self and big self, to tell my higher self I want to drop 20 goddamn pounds and I'm tired of messing around. Now let's get this shit together. And but you do it from you. You know, you use your personality, you. But you know, just tell it to do it. Don't ask it. Don't ask it. Asking it to do something is sort of like saying, I will do that. Do it. Do it. Trust self. You can do it, Nancy. I mean, you'll get the hang of it pretty damn quick. You'll get the hang of it pretty quick. But it's self. You're going to be hearing that every time you listen to me. I must say that 1,000 times a day to people. Trust self. Don't trust me. Don't trust anybody else. Don't trust your sister, your mother, your father, your brother. Trust yourself.